Hello everyone, I'm flying solo today because David's coming in from Thailand just now. So welcome to the January 2015 meetup. It's our first meetup for 2015. So excited! Yeah. Etcetera's hosting us, so thank you to Etcetera for being quite kind and put on pizza and drinks. Sasha, do you want to say anything about Etcetera?
I'll say a little bit. Hope you all enjoyed the pizza and beer. We specialise in APM, DevOps, Dev, automated testing, and we are hiring. So if people are looking for roles, looking to change roles in the near future, my cards are just in front of the projector, so just grab one on the way out and get in touch with me. And just try and forward your CVs on CHRA. And that's all I have to say. Enjoy the evening.
Great, thank you. So we've got two talks on tonight. We've got Luke that's going to be talking about REA Shipper, and Francois who's going to be talking about Hira. And then, like always, at the end we'll have community announcements. So if you've got any open positions or some tech you want to talk about, just events, we'll announce them at the end. So to start, we've got Luke.
Hi everyone, thanks for the intro. I'm Luke, I'm a developer at REA. A couple of months ago I joined a delivery engineering team and we've been working on improving our deployment tooling. This is what we've been doing for a while now. We've been using Packer to create our AMIs on every build, and then we copy that AMI to each region that we want to deploy from, and then we deploy EC2 instances using that AMI. This works pretty well. It's got some good stuff going for it. Mutable servers that it gives you are really easy to work with and easy to think about. You get most failures when it builds instead of deploying. It boots pretty fast because it doesn't have to pull down all your packages when the machine starts up. And you get a nice artifact for every build. Got some not so good things happening though as well. Like probably a few of you, we're building more and more services over time. So build time for any of these services is becoming more important. At the moment for our AMIs, it's taken 5 to 10 minutes for each build, and copying between regions adds another 5. Managing different AMIs between regions is pretty annoying. You don't have a single identifier for an AMI. The EBS volume storage adds up. One of the bigger issues for our devs is that there's lots of stuff in the app deployed alongside the app that isn't core to it. So things like log forwarding and Nginx that are pretty generic and aren't really, necessary for the app. That supporting stuff is done wildly differently by different people over time, which is becoming really hard for us to maintain. You go to look at it, see how something's been deployed, and you have to spend time reasoning through what the person was thinking that day. So it'd be nicer if we had a bit of consistency there. And patching vulnerabilities really sucks. So things like shell shock, where we had to update thousands of AMI, or not thousands, but lots of AMIs, was really painful. We honed in on a use case where we thought we could actually fix some of these problems. That was web apps, because they all look pretty similar. They all expose something on port 80, and the alerting and monitoring is pretty consistent. We generally care about the same stuff for each one. So we wanted to kind of package up some of that stuff so our devs didn't need to think about it so much. Our goal was to make starting up with a new microservice and getting it deployed into production or a production-like environment really, really easy. We wanted it to build fast. We wanted 0 downtime deploys for it. We wanted a sensible default config that devs can change if it makes sense for them, but generally can leave alone. We wanted some consistency in our infrastructure, like I said. One of the big things for us lately has been tagging our resources, trying to work out who's spending all our money in AWS. Has become almost a full-time job for one of our guys, so it'd be nice to make it a bit easier for them. And we want to roll out improvements over time to as many places as possible without having to touch every project's deployment. REA Shipper is the tool we created to do this. It uses Docker, the thing that everyone's using, to deploy into AWS with zero downtime, along with some containers, things we want everywhere, like Nginx and Splunk. That gives us separation from the app and things that are only there to make the app run. These are the requirements for things we can host in it. Just has to be on port 80, log to standard out and standard error, and store no local state. So that's pretty much any web app. Alongside the app, we deploy Nginx with, I think the only thing we can configure right now is caching and a log forwarder, which we're using to send logs to Splunk, but if we decided to go with Logstash or something else, it would just be a matter of swapping out that container. So that's what we've got on each of the EC2 instances this thing deploys. And then we've got a host AMI that we use for all our deployments with this tool. So this is where we save that time and baking an AMI each time we get to reuse this thing. It's pretty small Ubuntu, but we can swap it out for something else. It's got just enough to run Docker and New Relic, and that's about it on it. This gets deployed into AWS with pretty common infrastructure for this type of app, an auto-scaling group with a load balancer in front of it, and some security groups. So pretty standard. I'm sure a lot of you have seen something that looks like that. Also gives us we've got some optional stuff. So you can specify a PagerDuty endpoint, and a whole lot of standard alarms will send stuff there. You can configure some IAM roles, other stuff that you might want for a web app like that. DNS record if you want to make things a bit friendlier, and some schedules for scaling. It's a YAML-based config, basically to configure the stuff I just described. The deployment process for it is, first we run, generate and run a CloudFormation script for the long-lived stuff. So the ELB, security groups, that kind of thing, that won't change much from deployment to deployment. And then we originally wanted to also deploy our auto-scaling group using CloudFormation. It would be really nice if it was just one stack, but unfortunately there's a bug in load balancer health checks, which meant instances were being added to the load balancer before they were really ready for it. So we had to fall back to using the AWS API. We use that to update in place the existing auto-scaling group if we're just asking for a few more instances or something like that. But if we make any changes that are more extensive, we bring up a new auto-scaling group, add that to the load balancer, wait for the load balancer to decide every instance in that auto-scaling group is healthy, and then we remove the other one and tear it down. And that gives us our zero downtime. And then at the end of it all, we tell New Relic about our deploy. When the instances start up, start with Nginx. Start with the app, then with Nginx, and then a Splunk forwarder, which tails the logs on the other two containers and catches up and forwards all of that to Splunk for us. Current performance is that building a Docker container is way faster than building an AMI. It's seconds rather than minutes in most cases. Deployment typically takes 3 minutes. At the moment, most of that's waiting to pull down layers in the containers that we want to run. We think we can get that a lot lower over time. The adoption for this within REA, we were expecting it to be, something just our team and a few teams around us used, but it's it was initially used for a few dashboards, and then people seemed to like it, and now a couple of months later we're using it in probably close to a dozen production services, I think. And the growth's been totally organic. We're seeing it pop up in other parts of the business where we weren't even aware that they knew of this project, which has been nice. We've got some plans for what we'd like to do next with it. As I mentioned, we'd like to be able to do the single CloudFormation stack because it's pretty nice having it all in one spot. We really want auto scaling based on the CloudWatch alarms, which will be easier if we're just dealing with CloudFormation rather than API calls. We want an LDAP enabled Nginx container, same with SSL for the client cert. We want to use Fig to provision the stuff that's on the server. That will help make development look even more like what ends up in production. And we really want to open source it soon because a couple of us on the team want to start using it for our own stuff. We also want to start playing with the PaaS, so with Mesos or something like that. And having this tool in the deployment process gives us a point where we can swap out what it's doing under the hood. And rather than deploying it to this AWS infrastructure, we have it throw things at a container, at a cluster, which would hopefully mean we could end up killing off the tool before long. Other things we might do, I mentioned before, one of the slowest parts of it is bringing up EC2 instances on every deploy, so it's not that efficient with AWS resources. Been playing around with using HA proxy to deploy new containers to the running instance and then swap them out. Multi-region support isn't that key for us yet, but it's something we need to start looking at over time. And dashboard is another thing that we're looking at as a nice little bonus, in that with the config we have, that config tells you pretty much everything you would need to know about what would go in a dashboard for that app. So it would be very easy to take our existing config and spit out a monitoring dashboard for the app. Any questions?
I've got two.
Sure.
First one is, how are you doing logging? Are you mounting a volume onto the other container, or are you accessing through Docker logs or something like that?
Through Docker logs right now.
The second thing is, have you thought about using your Nginx container to do the A/B testing, the A/B balance, blue green?
That would be nicer. I don't know enough about Nginx to know whether I can do that. You can totally do it. I'm going to talk to you about that. Sorry?
You can use Nginx as well as proxy and they just forward the traffic to this other container instead of this former container. Sure. That's what we do. So.
Okay, cool. Well, that would get us there much quicker. I like that. Anyone else? Sorry.
So you mentioned security patching originally being a headache. So if you blow away all of your Docker cache as you need to security patch, you go back and reinstall packages, then surely the same amount of time applies to set up a AMI or a Docker image or whatever.
I think you might be right, actually. I can't think of a good way to defend that.
No, sorry, I'll chip in because.
Please do.
Okay, so I've worked, the other person in the team that's been working on this. The part of the issue there was when we see things like Shell Shock and Hartley going and finding a large number of projects that have the things that need to be patched and patching all of those AMIs and making sure that they're all rolled out and redeployed. In our case, because we have a single base AMI, we can patch that, provide a new version of that. All anyone else needs to do is just hit the deploy button and their app gets rolled out on the new AMI. So it's one new AMI build to support a whole bunch of new of existing projects.
But you need to actually patch the Docker image.
Yeah, you still need to patch the Docker containers.
For vulnerabilities inside a container, absolutely you're right.
Yeah.
For host vulnerabilities, it's a bit of a different situation.
Yeah, I've been struggling with the same thing.
Yeah,
so.
and that's actually becoming a problem for us, even visualizing what's affected when one of these things happens to us is something we're grappling with at the moment, but we don't have good answers yet. Yeah.
3 quick, easy questions.
Sure.
What kernel version are you running everywhere? What file system are you running with Docker? And how large are your Docker images?
I can answer the Docker images one. They're about 300 or 400 meg in most cases. The Nginx one's significantly smaller, so it's the Splunk, I believe.
We're running Ubuntu 14.04 with the stock kernel and AUFS.
There we go. Yeah, that's actually something else we've been focusing on a bit, is trying to get those image sizes smaller. Yeah.
More reliable packages in 60 meg.
Yeah.
60 meg.
Another trick is also to pass all your commands on a single line, because every time you do a run command.
Oh yeah, so you don't get the intermediate layers.
Well, if you don't care about the layers,
Yeah.
If you do copy file, it's another line, delete files, another line.
Yeah, you've still got it in that earlier.
Basically, even though it's the same file that you add and then remove, it's counted twice in remake.
The problem doesn't hit us as hard as it might, because we went with Ubuntu, and I think we've got some CentOS images as well, but predominantly Ubuntu because that was historically what was used in the AMIs. The base Docker image that these things get deployed to has the base Ubuntu Docker images
baked into the AMI.
Well. So when we do a pull, the first few layers are already there. It's not 100% because the host doesn't move as quickly as the Docker images, but every time we upgrade the host, that refreshes those images and the deploys aren't too bad.
Also, the Docker ignore file really handy.
Yeah, we haven't been using that much, but that's something we
Remove the delegated directory.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Great, thanks guys. Also, we're hiring, so come see me.
Thank you. So next up, we've got Francois with Hira. Haven't had a puppet talk in a while.
Yeah.
Retro. You right?
Yeah. Fine.
That's why I'm not in the way. Except it's. Because I'm a bit of a cabbage.
Just a bit. Jack says no.
Much better. Except, of course, I didn't get the primary. There we go.
Is your screenshot flipping yourself?
No, just snapping.
Just flipping sound, that's fine.
Here we go. So, first, apologies. Yes, I'm very aware of the accent. Yes, I've had people play recordings of my voice back to me. And yes, it's very, very much worse than what I think it is. So yes, I know, and I'm sorry, but actually not sorry.
The Shmi, Charlie, Frenchie.
Yeah, but no, I'm not Charlie. So yeah, who here is using configuration management? That's not that many hands. Who here is using Puppet? Who knows what YAML is? That's actually surprising. That's good. So Hire has been introduced with Puppet 3. It was there a bit before, but as many side projects that works pretty well with Puppet, Puppet Lab decide, hey, that's really good. We're giving you money and we're making it ours. And people are like, okay. So Hire now is part of Puppet Labs and shipped with Puppet 3. What Hire allows you to do is to remove your configuration from your Puppet manifest. So you don't have to have variables inside your manifest, just plain config. I need Apache, I need Tomcat. You don't really care the port, you don't care where your SSL certificates are. That's what Hire will do for you. So there we go. So obviously, stop putting variables in manifest. Now, seriously, stop putting variables in your manifest. It's disgusting, and it's a pain to debug 6 times down the road when the guys that did it is off on holidays where there's no 4G, no 3G, no 2G, and no phone at all. But he's having such a really good time while it's 2 in the morning for you. So, for instance, classic case, you need sudoers on the machine. So on dev, obviously, you're happy with dev having sudo. In test, you're happy to have tester having sudo. In prod, you're really happy with only ops having sudo because DevOps, but not that much DevOps. And if you're not sure, ops matter. What you think you did? Hey, that's such a clever hack. Jim needs access to this particular Snowflake server. So I'm just going to say, if you're not Snowflake, then everything applies. Otherwise, you give Jim sudo. Here's what you actually did. Good job. That's a fucking Gordian knot. But that's fine. We can just untangle all of that thanks to Hire, because Hire is going to take all the complexity out of it, sort of by magic, but mostly disgusting Ruby. So first you define a hierarchy. You tell it, hey, I want to use YAML file, or if you don't like YAML and you like JSON, which is like the new XML, you can use JSON too. You can even use XML or MySQL because some people are a bit crazy and use really disgusting stuff for it. I kid you not, people have a MySQL backend for it. And it's really slow, as you would expect. You define in which order you address, you look for your data. So you can have common, you can have some things that actually match Puppet global variables or locally defined variables. So for instance, hostname. So you can have Snowflake later on. Or your environment, like dev, test, staging, or prod. You put some of your data in your file. So for instance, for people that don't know YAML, that's an array of variables. The array sudoers contain dev, ops, and test, or ops and test, or ops, or dev, ops, and Jim. Fucking Jim. I really hate Jim. And then your really disgusting code just become a single one-liner. Sudoer equal hire sudoer. It will work everywhere. If the machine knows it's in the dev environment, it's going to apply dev ops and test. If it knows it's Snowflake from its hostname, which you should configure, please configure your hostname. Don't leave it as template-01. That's disgusting too. It will know, hey, I'm Snowflake. I should grant access to DevOps engine. Fucking good. So what you could use it for? Well, things that you need to repeat across a vast subset of machines. For instance, user accounts, config options, passwords, SSH keys, private certificates. Of course, I commit my password to Git. Come on, guys, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, shit, that was the wrong lane. Oh, sorry, there's someone that is actually trolling the RSS floods from GitHub to look for AWS keys. Oh, what's that? All my servers have been compromised because my private SSH key is public. So there is a new backend for IR, which is IR GPG, where you use GPG as your backend. You encrypt all the things. But the problem when you encrypt all the things is you need to be able to read them. The concept of having text file configurations is easy diff. So what do you do when you want other people to encrypt files for you? You can start from scratch every time. It's not boring at all. I mean, you just keep a flat text copy of your files that you encrypt later. I mean, you just have a lot of local flat text copies. That's not bad. It's cool. You can just share your private key around. Not a problem at all. I mean, so that you're in contractors, people that live on bad terms, people that live on good terms but sell their laptop, people that get their laptop stolen in the train, people that get their phone stolen in the train, people that just don't care about private keys and leave them on 777. This one is a bit better. It's hierarchy YAML for encrypted YAML. Basically took all that was good about IRGPG, namely encryption, and decided that's great, but what I really want is just encrypted single fields like password or private keys. I don't care if my public key is public. It's a public key. So that's pretty much what it looks like. That's what's going to be shown to someone who doesn't have the private key. That's someone what they can see when they have your private key. They can actually decrypt your file. If they can't, they just say, hey, I have my public key. I'm going to give you an encrypted file. I don't care if you can read it or not. You're supposed to use the private key. So that's great. We secured everything. What's private is private. What's public is public. Puppet Master can still see the variable, so it's happy. So let's go back to our first example. It's nice, but as you can see, ops should be in common because everything needs ops. And we need more ops everywhere, especially on dev machines. Because I can't trust those devs, especially devs. So let's put ops in common. I mean, after all, you're thinking, hey, it's called common, there should be a good reason, right? Should do some kind of freebie magic, and yeah, I should have my speed words, right? Right? Whoops. Everything is now ops. Well, didn't quite work the way I wanted. But I mean, Ruby, hashes, JSON, YAML, that should be working really much better, right? Right? Let's try again with a hash. Oh no, everything is still ops. So why would you use common variables then? If instead of having comments, you just have overrides, well, that's the point. It's called a hierarchy for a reason. You don't put the common stuff on top. You put the common stuff at the bottom as a catch-all. If you don't define anything, common will catch it. If you put it on top, common will catch it, and nothing else. But then you still have the same problem, which is first one match all. So that's great. So you still have to redefine each variable completely every time. So if you have like 2 or 3 variables, like let's say dev, ops, gym, it's okay, it's not hard. When you have roughly 3, 4, 500 employees in 20, 30 groups, and you have dev team A and remote dev and contractors, and you can't really track who has access to what, so you have to recreate a 25 variable arrays every time. You're getting a bit feeling like, yeah, well, fuck hierarchy. If I was to do that like that, I would just do it in my manifest with if and else. You can just use a merge. Use the merge. Merge is awesome. There are arrays to merge. Arrays. I see some people for those. If you go back to our previous example, that's what it would do. You do arrays like, hey, there's this array in dev and this one in common. I just merge the two to get dev test rows. That's great. Similarly, hash merges hashes. God, you're not very alive. We should do the pizza after. Oh, well, that's not expected. I thought it was merging things. Let's go back one. Yeah, I mean, I put dev test rows. It's not merging my rows. What the fuck? It's easy. We need to go deeper. Yes, obviously, the worst part about here is that this is not the default behavior, which is what everyone would expect from a merge. Merge everything. Let's go back. Dev test, gateway, dev, and sudo as rows. Oh, that's what we want here. We want to merge everything at once. So obviously that's looking much better now. So the way merge works is basically if you have two separate keys, well, sorry, if you have a single key in 2 or more hashes, it creates a hash with all those keys. One shot. If you have multiple strings, it's considering, pretty sure I don't want this single string variable to be overridden every time or merged every time. If they set only a single one, there must be a good reason. So it takes default higher behavior, first one takes all. If you have 1 or 2 arrays, it's flatten the array, as you would expect. And I didn't make it because, quite frankly, I started to get sick of hashes. But obviously, if you have 1 or more hashes, what it does is wipe your shell, because everyone loves wipe your shell. It merges hashes recursively by making sure that all the previous rule applies. If your key exists in a single hash, it gets in the final hash. If there's a string, it takes over everything. If there's an array, it gets flattened. Thank you very much for your time. Questions? You can clap too if you want. Yes, please.
How does it work with the auto lookups for class variables?
Sorry?
How does that work with auto JavaScript perfect Jackson?
How does it work? That's for your receipts. But it's okay, you're Australian, so I will let it pass.
How does it work for auto lookups with the merging of the higher arrays and things and the hashes?
Basically, well, higher up match up the top level variables that you can have in Puppet, or you can define yourself. So you can tell it, for instance, $env equal test. And then somewhere in your hierarchy, you say everything that match $env underscore config will match that. So you will have your several files. So you have, for instance, your dev underscore config.yml, test underscore config.yml, prod underscore config.yml. And depending on what you set somewhere in Puppet or even in your application, doesn't have to even use Puppet, it will match the corresponding file and always put command at the top, at the bottom.
No, I mean auto lookups for variables, auto lookups for higher variables for classes.
You mean like include higher includes or
yes, parameterized classes. You shouldn't use them. It's confusing. You should explicitly look them up. That wasn't the question.
the question is that if you want to tell from a variable, you have to say my variable equal higher or higher hash or higher array my other lookup field.
The auto lookup should work exactly the same, no matter what context you're invoking Hira in, because Hira is an external tool.
Yeah.
So it knows nothing about what context in public it's in. So whether it's doing a Hira lookup in the auto param stuff in the class, or whether you're doing it with the explicit Hira lookup, it'll return exactly the same thing every time.
So you can keep the merge deeper in your YAML file. And it will just,
I would assume so.
Yes. Hira is basically, you can even use Hira as a command line. You can use it as a gem in your Ruby project if you want. You can use it in Bash if you really want. And that might actually not the worst thing you would do in your life.
Wouldn't recommend using auto lookups though. It's pretty gross.
Well, recommended behavior, if you want to use Hira to loop variables, you do not set any default because it's much better from a configuration management point of view to error at the first run of your configuration tool because it can't find a variable that automatically assumes, oh, I couldn't find a variable, I just set up the very insecure default where everyone has access to everything. Because that's usually what happens. It works really well in dev and it works with test, and it might even pass most of the tests in Q&A until you realize, oh, we actually didn't really test for what would actually happen if we set a particular environment to my super AWS prod environment. But seriously, you should. But yes, so basically, usually don't set send default if you can avoid it. Just make it fail and explicit all your configuration.
any more questions? All right. Thank you.